Hi, this is Annie from the ADHD Minimalist, and I'm here today with my cat, Gandalf. Say hi. I'm really sleepy. Oh, yeah. He was laying around here today, and sometimes he's so cuddly. He just wants to fall asleep in your arms. So, and he's very soft. This is our baby kitty. We had, do you call it a litter of kitties? Well, I guess I'm calling it a litter of kitties. We had 3 baby kitties this summer, and this is one of them. We decided to keep one because he had long hair and he just had really soft, fluffy hair. So we all just sort of fell in love with him. And anyway, so we have another kitty, which I don't know, maybe doesn't make my husband the happiest, but he is allergic to cats, which is maybe not the best thing to have them in the house, but he's actually doing better than he was. So the idea is actually to get them out of the house, but right now they're in the house with us because it's winter and it's very cold. You say goodbye. You ready to go down? Oh, the cat knocked my screen. Sorry. Okay, I don't know. I don't usually film on this side of the room, but I wanted to take advantage of the light, so it's a little bit odd angle of my house maybe, but welcome back. I've been gone for about 6 months, haven't made a video in a while, and the reason for that was, well, I guess it started off that my daughter and I both got really sick in the fall, and then they weren't really sure if it's pneumonia or if it could be something that they call microplasm here. I'm not exactly sure what the English word is or if it's the same, but basically it's kind of like pneumonia that you get stuff in your lungs, you just cough and cough and cough. And so we were both really sick with fevers, and then we kept coughing, and so we kind of just took a break to get well, and then we just had a lot of stuff going on in the family. This fall, my oldest had to suddenly get moved back home. He had been going to a high school in the next town and staying there in an apartment, but they changed up the classes at the school and it just didn't work. And so we just kind of been putting out some fires in the family. I mean, other different things have been happening. My husband's dad hasn't been doing very well. He's, I believe, 84 now, so getting up there in years, and having health issues. So just a lot of stuff has been going on, and so I've basically just put these YouTube videos on hold because I had a bunch of other things I needed to take care of. So I'm really excited to be back here with you today. And other than that, I'm gonna put out some videos with some renovations we're doing. I don't know if you can really call them renovations. It's basically just painting, but let you see how that looks. And I'd really like your opinion on some things, so keep an eye out for those videos. And as always, I have a book out called Help, My Room Exploded. And if you haven't picked up a copy of the ebook, I'm keeping it at a pretty low price for a while just to make sure that everybody who wants one can get a cheap copy of my ebook. Of course, there's a paperback if you'd rather read it as paperback too, but it's for anybody who wants help with organizing their home or decorating their home, or even using minimalism to help with ADHD symptoms. So it's mainly geared towards kids, but you can use it as an adult to just adapt the ideas in the book to fit you as an adult. And I hope that helps. So go ahead and get a copy if you think that will help you, and get one before I have to raise the price, because I can't keep it at this low of a price forever. So I just want to make sure that all of you get a chance to get one before I have to change the price. So somebody asked me if I could talk a little bit about ADHD and different types of ADHD, and also how people who have ADHD maybe have different needs, and that's okay. So I did a video a while back about how we folded and organized clothes for my kids. My oldest has ADHD hyper, and my middle child has ADHD inattentive. And then I have a younger child that we've kind of been back and forth on if we want to. We had her in to get screened if they thought she needed a diagnosis, and everybody's just kind of like back and forth, like they're not really sure. And sometimes we have issues that we're dealing with her that we're not we're not really sure what to think. So we don't really know about that. But I'm using some of the skills that I've learned with the other two for her to make things easier for her too. So sometimes you don't even have to have a diagnosis for like some of these like basic principles to work and to help. But anyway, back to like how we fold clothes. So my oldest and my youngest, so the one with ADHD hyper and the one that we're not really sure about a diagnosis, those two, they like to fold their clothes. No, I take that back. I'm sorry. It's my middle child with ADHD, inattentive, and my youngest who do this. They fold their clothes like Marie Kondo style, where they kind of stand up, or they roll the clothes and like lay them if it's a really shallow drawer. So the point is there that they like to open the drawer and see everything that's in there. And so these like traditional piles where you fold things and you stack them on top of each other like this wasn't working for them, because if I don't know, they kind of like forgot that the stuff underneath was there was one thing, but also if they were looking for something specific and they couldn't see it on the top, they would just start pulling everything out, and then it would be a huge mess in the bedroom. So what would happen is that, especially in my middle child, she would start throwing stuff out of her drawers in the morning looking for specific items that sometimes they were maybe in the wash and sometimes they were just folded and piled like I was taught to do when I was a kid, and she just didn't see it on the top. And so she'd throw all these clean clothes all around her room, and she also had a really hard time to remember to pick up her dirty clothes. So like I would have to sometimes I would go in there and help her and just like take stuff to laundry, and then sometimes I would remind her. But just like getting the dirty clothes to laundry was like a constant struggle for her for some reason. And they wouldn't be like in the laundry basket, they would be like all over the room on the floor and stuff, and like mixed with stuffed animals. And maybe she was drawing a picture and she didn't like it and she balled it up, and that's also laying in the corner with her toys and dirty clothes, and then she starts throwing clean clothes on top of it in the morning. So I started like a routine of like after she went to school, before I went to work, the first thing I would do would go into her room and check if she threw clean clothes on the floor, and then try to get those back in her drawers to keep from doing the laundry twice, because I felt like I was just drowning in laundry. And she's also a child that climbed trees and got dirty generally, and so I felt like I was doing laundry for her all the time, and that anything I could do to like just keep some of those clothes clean in the morning, it was worth my time. So I kind of started that routine, and then we did this huge purge in her room and redecorated it, and and got rid of like a whole bunch of her stuff and a bunch of toys and things, and sort of transitioned a lot of these toys into a toy library. So we would just bring stuff from the storage room in, I don't know, once a week, maybe it was probably about the average. So we'd bring in a tub and we'd put it in a designated spot, which we didn't have a play room that was actually its own room, but we had this room where we have a fireplace that's not really big enough to be like a family room where you can hang out or anything, because the fireplace it's basically there just to heat the house. But so I had like one chair in front of the fireplace, and then there was like all of this floor space. So we kind of just like got rid of that chair and just left it as like this open space. It's sort of like, I guess you could say it's like a hallway, but it's more like a hall area. So like the bedrooms all open out into that room, and basically it's a hallway that has like a little bit better flow, because you can go upstairs from there, you can go into the bedrooms, you can go into the hallway that goes outside into the bathroom. It's in that other hallway. But so we had kind of some of this dead space basically, and so we just brought in a tub of toys, just like one of these Rubbermaid tubs, wrote what was on there in it, and then we would bring it in and put it there, and the kids would play, and they would have, I don't know, they would make Legos like all over this area, or we had a wooden train set, and we had Duplos, it was some different categories. Barbie, I believe, was one. Pet shops was one for a while. And then the categories just changed and grew. And then sometimes when we hadn't gotten one out for half a year or something, we're like, okay, well, it's maybe time to sell whatever is in this tub and get out a new sort of category with something that was interesting now. So So that's how we got a lot of stuff out of her room. She doesn't really like to let go of things. My oldest and my youngest are very good about purging their things themselves. And I learned to declutter and to minimize from my oldest child. He has ADHD, and his idea was that I feel better when I don't have a bunch of extra stuff in my room, is what he came and he said. Goodness, it almost makes me cry to talk about this because this was like such a defining moment, I think, for me, because I've always really loved stuff. Like, I love to shop. That was like my hobby when I was in high school, and I love to like buy stuff as a hobby. And so I would bring things home, and I have a really small home, and so it can only hold so many things. And so I was like filling it and filling it and filling it. Then I felt like finally, like, the third child came along and the kids didn't have anywhere to play because I was using all the floor space for these huge pieces of furniture that were storing all of this stuff that I collected. But it wasn't stuff we were really using every day. It was like, I don't know, maybe a collection of vases or a collection of something else or just like stuff that I bought that I thought someday I'm going to do an art project with this. Like, I had a lot of project supplies that I wasn't really getting around to using as well. So I kind of had to do some work on myself, and I talk about some of this in my book too. The book Help My Room Exploded, but about how I had to like learn to kind of pare down my collections and be really specific about what was the criteria if I was going to buy another item to put in this collection. And I kind of made these criteria, and then I had to make sure that I stayed within that boundary when I was out shopping. But the fun thing was, it didn't keep me from like buying something new, but it kept me from buying stuff that maybe was like, a lot of the stuff I was collecting, it was like stuff I had to find at secondhand stores. So maybe it wasn't 100% perfect, but I would buy it anyway. And so I was trying to like make myself look for the ones that they weren't broken at all. They weren't missing a little piece, and they weren't like, if it was porcelain, it wasn't like had this crackling thing going on in the glazing, I guess is what you call it. So I had to like had my list of things, and then I would, if I found one that was like perfect, that fit in my criteria, then I would buy it. And then that kept me from buying stuff all the time because it was harder to find those gems, but it didn't make going shopping any less fun, honestly. And I kind of learned that every time I go shopping, I might not find something that's like one of those like adrenaline rushes where you're like, oh, I found this thing I was looking for, or I like got a really good deal, or it's sometimes like I had to kind of teach myself that the fun was in like going to town with a friend, or the fun was in going with one of my kids, and like it was the experience that you kind of like, maybe you went out to eat lunch and you looked at some stuff, and if I didn't find anything, that wasn't a problem. Like, sometimes you just kind of have to change the way you're thinking to like keep from bringing more stuff home. But anyway, so my son came to me and he was like, Mom, I need to get stuff out of my room. And he was throwing all of this stuff out in the hallway. And so I had to like jump in and help him sort through stuff. And we took a whole bunch of stuff to the secondhand store. And that was so hard because I think partially because I grew up and when my parents kind of always felt like they didn't have enough money. And so my dad worked like partially in, I guess you would say maybe in ministry. He was working at a job for a nonprofit and doing stuff he really liked. And so, I mean, that was fun to see that my parents were working at jobs that they loved, really. But like then sometimes it just, Mom was worried about money. Like, you could see it. And so she would like tell us that something that we have to like wait till next month to buy this, or explain that I don't know, this thing that we needed for school wasn't coming right away, or even sometimes that we couldn't even buy like exactly what we wanted at the grocery store. But we, on the other hand, we weren't like poor. I would say that maybe we were like lower middle class Americans, was what I would say that our family was at the time. And I don't know, I didn't have a bad childhood, and I don't feel like we went around like lacking things most of the time, but sometimes that stuff just sort of like the mindset just kind of like seeps into you. I mean, you hear like a bunch of times, I mean, money doesn't grow on trees, or like, don't throw that away, you might need it. Or in Swedish, you would say that the person who saves has. But sometimes that stuff is just like too much to manage, and you have to change your mindset. And like for in our family, like I was the problem. My husband kept asking me to get rid of stuff, and I couldn't really do it. Like I was just struggling. I would come up with all these excuses for why we needed everything. And so so when my son came, and he was like, I guess you could say this was like a person-centered approach to helping somebody who has a diagnosis. Like I was like, he came and he was like, this is what I need. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to change me in order to help you. And that was so hard, but I'm very glad that I started on that journey, because it's really changed like a lot. Like I don't feel like I have to, when I go on vacation before, when I went on vacation before, I felt like the highlight of the vacation was shopping for souvenirs and bringing stuff home. And now I feel like I can go on vacation and I enjoy other things, but a lot of this has just like been training, like the way that I kind of was programmed to function, it just like training me to do something else. Like so sometimes now we'll like go to museums or see things, and I find that just as exciting as my shopping trips and souvenir hunts were before. And of course, I'll still probably bring home some kind of souvenir. Lots of times these days, I'll bring home souvenirs that are edible. And so if my husband and I, we went on a trip by ourselves, we'll bring back a bunch of different food things and have like a evening maybe where the kids get to try foods from Italy or something. But you don't always have to bring home a souvenir that you're going to keep forever and ever and ever, because what you're going to keep forever and ever and ever is probably the memories and the pictures and that sort of thing. But and if you do pick up a souvenir every once in a while, that's fine. I'm just trying to explain that I had to do a lot of work on myself to change my mindset because that's what was like sort of creating chaos in our house. And I mean, still sometimes we have chaos when, like this last week, we've had a sick kid all week. And I mean, things happen. And the great thing is, I think about having less stuff is that it takes less time to get things back on track when they get off track, because you don't have as many things to manage. You don't have as many items to pick up. You don't have as much wash because you don't have as many clothes. So the wash pile cannot physically get as big as it could when you had too much clothes. Okay, so going back to like different kinds of like ADHD and different ways of doing things. So my son, no, he's the one who likes to like, he'll purge his stuff himself and bring me stuff. Sometimes now he's just turned 18, so he'll put stuff on Tradera and sell it. Tradera is the Swedish eBay. He'll put it on eBay and sell it himself now. Before, he used to bring me stuff and ask me to help him sell things. My youngest will also bring stuff to me, and it's usually she wants to give it to a younger cousin or a friend, or maybe something that she'll want to sell every once in a while. But she'll also just purge her stuff. Or if I say, hey, you know, I noticed that it seems like there's too much clothes in the wash basket. Can you go through all your clean clothes and make sure you're actually still wearing all this? Does it still fit? And she'll get rid of like 5 things like right away sometimes. So that's easy for them, but it's really, really hard for my middle daughter to get rid of stuff. So we've kind of had to like sometimes just like take stuff to the storage room and just let her know that it's out there, and it's we haven't thrown it out, and that she can have it back if she wants it back, but just to try to keep like her room decently free from stuff. And like her room will fill up way faster than the other two, because like nothing is coming out of there that's going in. And so every once in a while I kind of have to like help her, like, and we'll take all of her stuff out of the room and then put it back and go through everything. And sometimes she'll be with me and do it together. I don't know, for like the first day or something. Then a lot of times she'll lose interest. And so sometimes I've made decisions that I thought something was trash, because she'll be like, I don't want you to get rid of stuff without asking, but throw away trash. Or she's already gone through like the main categories and gotten rid of a few things. Like usually clothes are easier for her to get rid of than like stuff. But sometimes I'll like make a decision that I think something that can be thrown away because it's trash, and it was something she was saving for an art project or something. So I can still mess up, even though it's been like, I've been doing this for a lot of years. But sometimes, like, because she has ADHD, she can't hack, I don't know, like going through stuff and reorganizing. I mean, we're usually putting things back in like the same places, but sometimes maybe she grew out of something. So this whole storage box that she had that had a label on the outside, maybe we're taking all of that stuff and giving it away, and then she's putting something new in there. So there is a bit of like reorganizing, even if we're not completely changing her system, but she just doesn't have the patience for that. So sometimes I've just got to let her go after a while. And I always try to do as much together with her as I can, but finally, I mean, the kids will let you know when they're, it's like, just do it, mom, I can't handle it anymore. Which sometimes it's easier to do it if you're doing it by yourself, but then you can have these uncomfortable moments after where you're like, oh, did I throw that away? And I had one of those moments. One thing I think is actually gone, that it was like she had been ripping pages out of some kind of book that she picked up from the library for free because they were getting rid of stuff, and she was going to do something with it. And I was like, it was just with other balled up papers and random clip stuff she'd cut off of things. I don't know. And I just thought it was trash, so I threw it out. And that I couldn't find. So she was kind of upset about that. But then there was another thing that it was a broken scissors of all things, but she apparently used that for crafts, and she was like, where is my scissors? And I thought I threw it out, and I was like, oh no, I'm gonna cause like some kind of breakdown here if I can't find it. And it wasn't a bag of stuff that I thought was trash, but I needed to sort through it because I didn't want to just throw the metal in the regular trash can, so I hadn't thrown it out yet. And so I found it, and I was like, whew. But anyway, so sometimes I've had some, I don't know, like too many things in your house can cause like explosions because the kids can't hack like the general clutter. And also sometimes it's the other way around for like other kids who have different kinds of ADHD, or just have generally different personalities, that like getting rid of something for them might cause the explosion, and for the other child it's like having the thing that's causing the explosion. So you kind of really have to like know your kids. Also, I feel like my son, he doesn't need as much like organization and labeling of items and stuff because he just doesn't have as much stuff. And then so he'll just like, if he's working on a project like building a computer or something and he buys stuff and there's all these boxes and stuff, he'll just kind of like put all the stuff that goes sort of the same general things in one area. And then when he realizes that I don't have to keep all this stuff anymore, I don't need to send anything back, he'll probably get rid of some of it. But he just sort of, I don't know, he just kind of naturally he naturally doesn't have too many things usually, and so he doesn't need to like be like very specific about organizing stuff. He's also not doing a lot of crafts and stuff like my middle daughter is doing, so that crafts tend to make a lot of mess, especially in bedrooms. And I took them out of her room for a while just to have less mess and less stuff that needed to be organized in boxes and things in her room. But now it's back in her room again. I don't know, we had it out of there for a few years, and now she's older, and so she really wants to work on crafts projects and paints pictures and different things in her room, which does create a lot of mess and trash. And it needs like a more like storage containers to have the paints, and to have maybe scissors to cut things in paper and different things that take up space in her room. So she needs a lot more things that are like strictly organized with a label. And I noticed that she doesn't do very well if I like hide, if there's really important stuff that she needs to find every day. Sometimes she needs it to be out because she forgets where it is. Even if I like label stuff really well, some important things need to be where she can see them, or she just can't remember where they are. And so some of that stuff you just kind of have to learn it as you work with your child to find like a solution that works for them in their bedroom or like in other parts of the house. And so like she'll have some stuff like out on top of her desk, or she has a desk that has like you can shut the lid. But I think we're gonna, which has been really, really great because it was stressful to have like everything out, and she could just like shut it and keep her project there and then open it. So it was a really great solution for a long time. And I still really love those kind of desks. I have one up here, or two in my living room, one in my kitchen that's actually, I think that they opened it and they were making food on that one, the one that's in the kitchen. But it's nice to be able to shut things so you don't have to see it all the time. But now we've kind of like, I think we're going to get her just a regular desk that has just, just the flat surface desk. And I kind of dislike those desks because I feel like they're just like a magnet for junk. But she's doing so many crafts and painting so many pictures and stuff, and she might want to have an easel on it or different things that don't always fit, because a lot of these desks that have like the roll top or the the leaf that folds up and stuff. They'll have like drawers inside or different things. So there isn't always as much space in there to like put things. And so, I mean, if you have small things you want to organize, that could be really great. But if you have like an easel that's supposed to stand on your desk and these big canvases and some other things, like sometimes they're just not as convenient. And so we're going to go back to a regular desk with her for a while. And then we also decided to put up some cork so that she can put up some pictures and stuff, so that she's not like trying to tape stuff. Sometimes she's working on stuff and she'll like tape it up on the wall. And so I feel like things were kind of getting ruined. And so it's a time for something that is a little bit more flexible, where she can just easily put stuff up herself and it's not ruining the wall. So she's gonna have a few more things in her room that are like out, and I've really always kind of been one who says that it's better to try to put stuff behind closed doors so that they can easily do homework in their room. But she's not doing homework in her room. She's really been mainly doing her homework upstairs, because she'll like ask us to help her or something. So we'll sit upstairs at the kitchen table or on the couch maybe and do homework. And then in her room, she's being very creative. So I think honestly, I'd rather that she does her creative stuff down there, because then the rest of us don't have that like creative mess in the living room and stuff. So I think I'm going to try to like make that space a little bit more accessible and easier to put things back and that sort of thing. So we'll see how that turns out, and then I'll have to show you a video. She's actually switching rooms from one room to another, which is a really great way to get rid of stuff, because you have to go through it all. So we're going to go through all of her stuff again. But she likes, again, back to the clothes, she likes her clothes like either rolled up and like lined up or folded, so that they're standing up. So that's what we do when we put it in her drawers. And then I kind of do a laundry system where I wash stuff, and then when I take it out of the dryer, or sometimes you have to hang dry it, but whatever, you sort it. And so I have all these baskets for different people in the family, and then their kids are supposed to take their basket to their room and put their clothes away and fold it. My son, he doesn't fold anything. He doesn't have very many clothes. I mean, literally, he has like 2 pairs of pants that he likes to wear, and then he borrows pants from dad sometimes if he needs like work pants or like other pants. We should probably go get him more pants, but he's so picky. It takes us to like try stuff on, and it takes like all day is what it feels like to find a pair of pants. So that's like on my to-do list. Or if dad has some pants that sometimes he'll have more like expensive like pants for walking in the mountains or outdoors kind of stuff that somebody gave him for his birthday once, and they feel like they're a little bit too tight or something. So I was trying to get him to go through his wardrobe and see if he had something he could give to our oldest before we go buy something. And that's also a good thing if you have people in the family that are about the same size and you can like switch things around and stuff. I mean, like check if somebody wants stuff before you get rid of things. Then obviously if they have way too much stuff, maybe you shouldn't do that. But we kind of have the opposite problem sometimes, that some of the kids don't really always have enough clothes. Is kind of what I feel like we've gotten over. We've had way too much clothes before, and now it's kind of like on the other end of the spectrum, that sometimes the oldest, he's not really growing anymore, so he's not growing out of stuff, but it's hard to find stuff that he likes. And the youngest is growing out of stuff, and so like before, I feel like I buy her stuff and then suddenly nothing fits, and so I have to go buy more stuff. But anyway, so if you have that kind of situation, you can at least check within your family before you take stuff to the second-hand store if something fits someone else. But so he's just throwing all of his stuff in this drawer. It just kind of floats around in there, and he finds what he wants because he doesn't have very much stuff. My middle daughter, sometimes I have to help her fold stuff. So like right now, she'll kind of like leave a lot of her stuff in her basket as long as she can. And then sometimes she'll take the whole basket to her room, but it won't get put in the drawer. And so I don't know, some of this times this stuff is just like ADHD things. It's like you're on your way to do something, you get distracted and then it doesn't get done, or suddenly you realize you have to do homework and you were supposed to fold your clothes or whatever. But so sometimes I have to help her get her stuff in her drawers. And right now she has like one drawer that's mainly stuff she doesn't wear every day, so we don't always have to open that one. It's like things for scouts, she's in the scouts, or so special clothes that are for like specific things that she does that she doesn't use every day. And then the other drawer is mainly, and these are like pretty big drawers, they're like under the bed, it's an IKEA bed. Then the other drawer was like more for like t-shirts and stuff she wears every day. and that drawer can get emptied pretty fast and like not get filled up again. So that's, sometimes I just have to help, and I guess that's the way it is with all parents. Like sometimes, I don't know, like you're trying to like teach, like if you have a child with a diagnosis, you're trying to teach them skills so that they can like live on their own and stuff. But then there's like a point where like they've been at school until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and they come home and they're tired and they have homework or they have an activity, and finally are like, like where like they don't have the capacity, the energy, or maybe even the mental capacity to like to do certain things sometimes when they're so tired. And so you kind of have to like feel it, like when is a good time to ask them to do something, and when am I gonna cause like some kind of explosion or something, like because they don't have the energy right now. So, but again, just like knowing your child. Okay, I'm trying to think of like other things, like differences between like ADHD hyper, ADHD inattentive, like also difference maybe between boys and girls who have diagnosis. And I mean, there's really a lot of differences. I mean, like just like in getting a diagnosis, like our son was like, the teachers were really fast, like maybe you need to check this out, because he was like sort of all over the place. He was behind, I think, in reading and math, and the girls were too, but that's not really what they noticed. There was more like he just had trouble like in social situations, like playing with other kids, where certain kinds of play where you kind of like maybe have like role play, or you understand that you're building something together, and like he would just like after a while like and just like knock everything down, and the other kid was like, wait, we were doing this together and we were going to decide together when we're going to knock the tower down or something. But so just like this social component wasn't really working, and he liked to like play swords and stuff, and things that the school didn't really think was like appropriate, because they were like saying he's gonna hit somebody with a stick, or anyway. So like the school was pretty fast to like ask us to check if he had ADHD. But then our daughter kind of just sat at the back of the classroom and she was drawing cats on her homework and wasn't really following along with what was going on and what the assignment was. And the teacher would be like, now you can sit and read this or something. And she just was struggling to read, so she wasn't doing it, or she couldn't read the instructions, so she didn't start the homework. So the teacher eventually realized she had to kind of go over and make sure that she understood what was going on, or read her the instructions again or something, so that she could actually do the assignment. So I mean, that was a bit of a difference. Like sometimes I think girls are overlooked. There's actually a whole blog post on my blog, the ADHDminimalist.com, about why it's harder to find these ADHD diagnoses in girls. And it talks a little bit about the history of why that is historically, and a little bit of reasons why that is now and stuff. And hopefully like that would help you maybe figure out some things. If you have a girl that you're wondering if they have ADHD, it might help you check some things off your list and think, well, okay, I need to talk to a doctor, or I don't. So probably the fastest way to find this is to go over to my blog, the ADHDminimalist.com, and then you're gonna type in something in the search bar, and you might have to try a couple different times, but like you could search for ADHD and it should come up with a whole bunch of different things, different articles that I wrote. But or you could write ADHD girls, but when it comes up, you'll see it and you'll know which one I'm talking about. So usually there's enough articles and blog posts and different things on there that it's easiest just to go search, and then the search engine on the people who run my blog isn't always the best. So sometimes if you type in like exactly the title of what you're looking for, it doesn't come up, but if you type in a keyword, it will come up. So I don't know why that is, but you just kind of have to just play with it, and eventually you'll find what you're looking for. So it's anyway, the article on why it's harder to find these ADHD diagnoses for girls, that's the one you can look at. So other than that, I mean, like we've had problems like with language skills and different things with our middle daughter, and like we had to work on a lot of stuff, like at the table, like she would screech because she couldn't think of the word that she wanted to ketchup or something. Like sometimes you kind of need to come in with something like teach a little bit of sign language, or teach them to point, or like they point and you lift things and ask or something, just to kind of like get around, like if they haven't started like talking maybe as well as their peers are at a certain age. Our oldest was also late talker, but it's like when he started talking, he's the one that has hyper. It's kind of like he was like taking everything in, and then suddenly it's like it all came out at the same time. And our daughter is not like that. Like she's language in general isn't like her strong point, and I think like our oldest, if he would like work at it a little bit, like take some classes, he could probably learn several different languages. Like he's quite good at languages and she's not. So some of it's not like maybe an ADHD thing when you're like trying to figure out, like if you have a bunch of different siblings or kids in your family and you're trying to figure out how to help each one of them. Sometimes it's just like a personality difference, and sometimes it could be that you have several different diagnoses in your family. And again, I keep going back to saying a lot of it is just about knowing your child. Trying to think if there's something else that I should definitely talk about as far as like differences in ADHD. Like I don't have a child that has a diagnosis combined type. Sometimes I've kind of wondered if they would have had a diagnosis now, if they would have had a diagnosis called the ADHD combined type. I don't really know. These new definitions came out after my oldest two had got a diagnosis. So I don't know. So sometimes I observe them and I kind of wonder if you really have like ADHD combined type. And anyway, but let's see here. Other than that, like I've kind of noticed like even like as far as like doing chores and stuff, like we're trying to like go over to like maybe having like a day where each person helps in the kitchen or something, but sometimes like they still don't remember, so I have to kind of like remind them or be like really specific. Before you go and do that, I need you to unload the dishwasher, load it up again, and start it. Like, I mean, like a little bit, be like overly specific. Like my my oldest, I could tell him to like, when I say, can you just unload and load the dishwasher today and before I get back from work at 12 or something. And he will do that, but he'll try to like get around it a little bit. So when I open it, everything is clean and washed, but it's not full, and there might still be some dishes in the sink. So sometimes I have to remind him like, okay, you got to fill it up completely, because then you're like wasting water. And I mean, sort of like, I can't be too general often. And I can be a little bit more general with my oldest, who is ADHD hyper. With my daughter, who is ADHD inattentive, I need to be very specific. And she can also sometimes get really frustrated over things that I think she should know how to do or know where something is. And so I don't know, she needs a snack or something. I can be like, well, we have these 3 things that you could get up and get as a snack. And she'll be like, oh, but I don't know where it is, or I don't know. And like, just like this, like little bit of like not knowing can be like, make it like too big of a chore to like get up and look for some reason. So if I'm like more specific and I'm like, there's these 3 things, does any of that sound good? And she says which one, and then I can be, okay, you can get that, and it's in the green cupboard in the kitchen. Or like just being very specific about where it is, so that that mental blockage of like, oh, I have to get up and I'm not gonna know where it is, and it's like, and finally they're just like, oh, like you're getting over that mental hurdle by being very specific. And it's also a little bit like, sometimes if I ask her to start a load of wash, I have to remind her like, okay, you put it in, this is the detergent, and you gotta turn the dial like to a certain thing. Like just being reminding and being very specific, because that also, for some reason it seems to cut down on things not getting done or partially done, but also it like stops this like breakdown of like, sometimes like really like whiny, like, it's like, I can't do that, it's like too big, I don't know how, or you know what I mean, like this. It doesn't have to necessarily be like she's like really angry or upset, but it's just like a little bit of like a whiny moment where she's like, I can't do that, but she can, and she's probably done it before, but it's just like I don't know, I kind of feel like when you have ADHD inattentive, they're just forgetful or something, and she just needs to be reminded again, okay, I need you to do this, and this is how you do it. And it's also not giving too many instructions in a row. So like if I want her to do like 3 chores during the day, I'm not telling her all 3 at once. like give her one specific thing to do, make sure that there's clear instructions. When it's done, maybe give her some space, and then come back 2 hours later and say, okay, now it's time to do this. And then also be very clear about the instructions, and that these things aren't supposed to take a whole hour, because that can be overwhelming. But anyway, that's just a little bit of a difference, as well as kind of like how we deal with asking the kids to do things. And I think with the oldest, like even if I were to tell him really quickly without too many instructions or being specific, it's like he'll do it. He's more like trying to get around things because he's very smart. Like, how can I do the least amount of effort to get this thing done that mom asked me to do? So my being specific is more like not about him being forgetful. It's more about making sure that it's done the way that I'm wanting it done, or asking him to do it. So I don't have to call him later and be like, I noticed that this isn't done correctly, kind of thing. Oh, and I just heard a noise. I think it was my cat jumping somewhere. Okay, well, if you have any more questions, I really enjoy answering comments on YouTube, and so I always try to answer them as soon as I see them. So just go ahead and leave a comment if you have like something to add to this conversation about like differences between different kinds of ADHD. And I don't know, I think there's can be differences in the way you organize. Like my daughter wanting to have some more things, she definitely has to have labels, the one who's inattentive. Like, and when she was younger, I did like big pictures on like storage boxes so she could see what it is without having to read it. And I mean, even today, I kind of feel like sometimes like the picture as like a symbol for what's in there is easier than like having labels for her that have a bunch of words. It just got to be like easy to see and understand, and it's quickly. And I kind of like sometimes she needs to have, like she said, some important things might need to be out in her room, and I wouldn't have them out in my son's room or my youngest's room. But so you just kind of have to like find those things that work and just go from there. Like I said before, I have a book called Help My Room Exploded, which is about helping families and helping kids to get their rooms under control when you have a diagnosis. And a lot of it is about like not having as much stuff in your room, but creating categories and libraries, and maybe maybe it's about having more things in like a certain kind of category of toys and less toys that are just random toys because the kids can't sort them. Because at least that's what my kids did. When we had a bunch of like random toys that were like out all over the living room floor, when I asked the kids to pick up, they couldn't, because they couldn't sort through the toys and put them in the right bins. So if I like limit that, they can have lots of Legos, and we're only getting out Legos when we get out Legos. Or they can have lots of Barbies and Barbie stuff, but that's the only thing we're getting out at that time. Then picking up is easy suddenly. They just throw everything back in the box and they don't have to sort it. It's like this sorting can sometimes be really hard when you have ADHD. Okay, I'm going to stop there. This video is getting really long, and it's been really, really fun to get back to talking to you guys and making a video. And so please leave comments. Like, I would just love to hear from you guys. And if you have something to add that's worked for you, I'm sure that can help other readers. So please comment below and ask questions if you have a question. Good to see you guys again. Bye.